been a great week. We had a new pope was selected in the Vatican. We got Cardinal Sean got to stay here. You know, just think about the history of that whole process. The history of that whole process. I mean, you know, St. Peter said, "Upon this rock I will build my church," and Elizabeth Warren said, "You didn't build that." So I was proud to be a Republican this past week when I saw Senator Rand Paul on the floor of the United States Senate. And he had the guts, he had the courage to stand up, he had the courage to stand up on the floor and to speak truth to power and stand there until he got the answer to the question, which shouldn't have been a difficult question, which is the use of drones on U.S. soil against U.S. citizens. And my question was, when the issue of civil liberties of American citizens was being debated, where were the Democrats? Where was Ed Markey? Where was Steve Lynch? Where was the American Civil Liberties Union when the civil liberties of the United States citizens were being debated? And so I was proud to stand with Rand Paul. In fact, I was the only candidate of either party while he was on the floor, to issue a statement that I stand with Rand Paul, and if I were in the U.S. Senate right now, I would stand with him now. And I was proud to do that. So the Democrats offer fear and finger pointing, and we offer solutions and success. And I want to say that I have great respect for my friends and colleagues, Gabriel Gomez and Michael Sullivan. I really do, because any one of us is better than either one of what the Democrats are going to offer. But I hope that I can convince you, I hope I can earn your support, because I hope that you believe that I have the experience and the passion to run for this job, to be able to bring the fight to the Democrats all the way into June. They offer scare tactics. You know, the sequester is supposed to be so scary. We're going to cut less than 3%. Less than 3% of the rate of increase of the growth of federal spending, and they offered scare tactics. Remember, they said, there was a Democratic congresswoman who said, well, if the sequester goes through, we're going to lose 170 million jobs in America. So somebody pointed out that there's only 140 million jobs in America. And then the Secretary of Education said, well, you know, the teachers are already being laid off, until the Washington Post pointed out that that was a lie. It was not true. And then they said that they're going to lay off all of the janitors in the U.S. Capitol building, and that was President Obama, the scare tactic in chief himself. And then just hours later, the agency in charge of the janitors said that wasn't true. Nobody was getting laid off. So what did they do? This is just like a Prop 2.5 override in your town when they say you don't have enough money, so we're going to lay off the cops, the firefighters, the teachers. It's the same thing. It's the same tactic, the same playbook that they use. And so they doubled down on scare tactics. And they said that the things are so tight because of the cut, this less than a 3% cut in the rate of increase of spending, that they have to shut down White House tours just in time for spring break, with all the kids going to Washington, D.C. to see the People's House. They closed the door to the People's House. Now, ABC News reported that it costs about $18,000 a week to run White House tours. There's no money for White House tours. What do they have money for? Well, they have $277,000 a year for 3 calligraphers to work in the White House, but there's no money for White House tours. The EPA is funding a study, $141,000 study of Chinese swine manure. We've got money for that. No money for White House tours. I want to read this because I want to make sure I get it right. The Obama administration last year funded 894 government conferences, think junkets, at the cost of over $100,000 apiece. That's more than $340 million, but we can't open the doors to high school kids and grade school kids. $27 million to teach pottery classes in Morocco. Wine junkets in Nancy Pelosi country in California. My favorite, by the way, this is my favorite. $325,000 to build a robotic squirrel. Talk about nuts. Now, what's interesting is that just, I think it was today or yesterday, President Obama said, well, I wasn't the one who said to shut down the White House tours. And then just hours later, the White House spokesman said, well, it was the White House that said to shut down White House tours. Like, come on, who the heck is running the country? I think we ought to be running the country, and we can do it with this election. Now, I know many of you know me, but many of you don't, and I just want to take just this brief moment to introduce myself to you who don't know me. I've worked in the vineyards with you, and I've been on a town committee, an award committee, and a city committee, and I was Ray Shamby's general counsel in the last resurgence of the Republican Party, and we can do it again. I know we're going to do it again. I was born in Western Massachusetts in Amherst. I was a Republican from Amherst. I am used to adversity. I'm the oldest of 4 boys. My dad was an antenna repairman when I was a little kid. He launched a small business. My mom is a first-generation Italian-American, and she's a registered nurse. She was a registered nurse for 50 years as an emergency room nurse. And my mom believed, I think because she was new to the country and her parents were new to the country, she was born here. My mom believed to her core that education is the great equalizer in American society, that education is the path to the American dream. So if you've ever launched a small business, you know that money flows toward the business, not away from the business, and my brothers and I were in high school, and so my mom worked 3 jobs to put 4 boys through college. I've been a lawyer in the private practice of law over 30 years, 20 years in the private sector, 2 brothers who are cardiologists and a brother who's an MBA in finance, and I think that Mom was right. Education truly is the path to the American dream. Because of that, I've worked my whole life. I worked in high school as a house painter. My boss was this German guy. He said, Dan, always remember the forgets. I said, remember the forgets? What are you talking about? He said, get in, get fast, get good, get lost. And it was good advice for politics as it is for paint. And because of that, I have positions in government not to have the positions. I have positions in government to do the job, to accomplish something, to get in and then to get out. And so I've served in all 3 branches of state government at a high level. I'm one of the few people in the state to do that. I was a judge for almost 8 years, and I received national recognition for judicial reform. And I left that job, that lifetime job. I quit that job in the state's last fiscal crisis after 9/11. I quit that job because I believe that when the chips are down, that decent people have an obligation to step up. And that if decent, honest, and hardworking people don't get involved in government, then government won't be decent, honest, and hardworking. And so I committed to the governor. 2 years of my life, I committed to my wife, no more than 2 years of my life in that job, and so I did that, and I was part of the senior team that turned a $3 billion deficit into a surplus inside of 2 years. We didn't have the votes, by the way. We didn't have any power. We had hard work and innovation and new ideas and new thinking, and that's what we brought to the table to solve that deficit problem. I know we can do it in Washington. And I did that. I left that job, and I became Scott Brown's lawyer in the race against Coakley, and that kind of energy, that kind of excitement that I saw, that people knew before the press knew, people knew before the pundits knew, that change was afoot, and that's happening now. You can feel it. People are yearning for answers in Washington, that the old ways aren't solving problems, that if we send the same tired, entrenched Democratic congressman down to Washington, we are not going to get a different result. We're going to get the same damn result, and we can't take it anymore. I worked my way through college as a carpenter, framing up houses, building roof trusses and windows. Tell me I was a lousy date in college because I would drive through all the subdivisions we framed up and say, yeah, see how straight that is? See how I framed that window? And because I have a lot of pride in solving things and fixing things. And it's that same love of problem solving and fixing things that causes me to come into this race, to try to seek your support for our nomination. Because I believe that Washington isn't working, that too many people in Washington are too content to point fingers. We got to solve problems. We can do this. This Republican thinking, our principles, the principles of the Party of Lincoln, freedom, respect for individuals, opportunity, and responsibility. I believe that we have to rebrand the Republican Party to be relevant to the majority, women and millennials and new Americans, that we're not the grand old party, we are the great opportunity party. That's what we stand for. Growth, opportunity, prosperity. And in this election, and the only election for the U.S. Senate this whole year, that we can set the tone, and we can set the pace, and we can set the trend for 2014 and 2016, and we can take back America, and with your help, I will do it. Thank you very much.